What's up, guys? Let's talk about the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra in late 2023. This is still an excellent flagship to buy. And looking at the price, you can find these for as cheap as $329 for a good unlocked version. But if you want an excellent version, I noticed the price hasn't really changed too much at all. It's still hovering around that $400 mark, even on Amazon here. It's still like really, I think it's kind of expensive for going into late 2023 here, going into 2024. I don't think the price is going to drop at all. So I've been getting a lot of questions about that. Do you think the price is going to come down? At this point, I think the price will come down when this phone stops getting security patches. So it'll be a while before I think the price comes down, because this is Samsung's last, Note phone that is actually getting security patches. The Note 10 Plus is not getting security patches. And once you saw the Note 10 Plus not get security patches, the price dropped pretty dramatically on that phone. All right, so let's talk about the design on the Note 10 Plus. I still think it looks pretty good for 2023, even going into 2024. I still like the design. This is when Samsung introduced the big camera sensor, so you get that camera bump coming from the Note 10 Plus, pretty much flat camera. And you also have your S Pen on here, which works really well. Still super smooth feeling. And also, like I said, this phone has SD card support as well too. And if you are somebody who downloads a lot of content, takes a lot of videos and stuff like that, you can pop in 512 gigabyte SD card and be good. You should have a ton of storage after that, and they go for pretty cheap too. So hardware wise, it's still a really nice looking phone here, but it has that boxy design, which is not super comfortable to hold. Basically, Samsung has adopted this design completely, and it's never been my favorite. I've always preferred the S21 Ultras, that kind of design with the S series, because it's just more comfortable in the hands, especially for people with smaller hands. But yeah, you can pop a case on here and it sort of makes it not as aggressive feeling at the bottom. But yeah, hardware wise, I think it still looks really good. It's IP68 dust and water resistant as well too. Alright, so one of the best things about the Note 20 Ultra is actually the display on here. Now, the bizarre thing about the display when this phone first came out is that it does have 120 Hertz and it does have a 1440p display, but you can only look at the 120 Hertz, in the 1080p mode. So you don't get to take advantage of the full resolution, or you would have to switch to 1440p if you were watching like a 2K video or something like that. You have to switch and go back to 60 Hertz. So it is a little bit strange. I just keep it at 120 Hertz at 1080p. I think it looks fine. But yeah, it's a big display as well too. Very big at 6.9 inches. And Samsung actually, they don't make displays this big in their flagships anymore. I think it's around like 6.8 inches for the S23 Ultra, which is not like that much different. But yeah, this phone, it just feels really big, and the screen is just massive on here as well too. It does have a slight curve to it as well, or not a slight curve, it does have a pretty aggressive curve on here. Samsung has been dialing the curve back, like with the S23 Ultra, but rumors are saying they're actually going to get rid of the curve altogether. But this is still a fantastic looking display. HDR10 plus, 496 for the PPI. It is a super sharp panel when it comes to text and color and icons and all that stuff. Everything looks really crystal clear. This phone does have a max brightness of 1609 nits for the peak brightness, so it's pretty bright outdoors in direct sunlight. So if you're outside, it's a sunny day, the phone actually still does a fairly decent job at being able to see it. So I really like that about this display as well too. Alright, so let's talk about gaming performance here. Gaming performance is honestly just really excellent still in this late 2023, guys. It's really good. And again, this is the Snapdragon model, so this is the Snapdragon 865. We're running Android 13 as well too. And the base model here, this one is 128 gigs of internal storage and 12 gigs of RAM as well too. So it's an absolute, beast of a performer when it comes to gaming. We're able to run, PUBG at 90 frames here, and it's just super smooth, guys. There is no issue. I've never had any, kind of heating problems with this phone. This phone is actually cooler than the Snapdragon AAA phone, and I'll do like a test and like show you guys the actual like temperatures and stuff like that, like playing PUBG, so you guys can see what I'm talking about with those like Snapdragon AAA phones and Yeah, they're not my favorite phones. I've never had them like crash on me, but I always notice like they get way warmer than like an 855 or an 865. But as far as like performance wise, you guys can see, it's just super, super smooth. So if you're trying to, play some PUBG competitively, you got 90 frames and it's really awesome. I'm not sure if the Exynos model has 90 frames. So anybody who has that, who's overseas, they can kind of chime in on that because I have no clue. But if you have the Snapdragon model, just know you're going to get excellent performance. Let's talk about software support. So this phone is only getting security patches, guys. The last update for this phone was Android 13, One UI 5.1, and it's only getting security patches, I believe, for the next 2 to 3 years. So the phone will be covered for security. And honestly, you're not really missing out on anything software wise. Even with like, just looking at One UI 6, there's not a ton of stuff in there that's like major changes. But as far as the software experience goes, it's still very fast. You still have all your essentials here: Samsung desktop support, wireless power sharing. Yeah, there's nothing in here. You can use GoodLock to do a lot of customizing and stuff like that. So you're not really missing out on really anything when it comes to the software experience. And like I said, you do have the S Pen support on here as well too. And it's still really good at taking notes. And if you guys are into like digital artwork, I've seen people on YouTube do some really good like digital artwork on here. If you like type it in on YouTube, you'll see like some really precise, drawings and stuff like that. But it's really good for like taking notes. And if you want to use it to like take videos, if you're like a content creator, TikToker or something like that, you can press this button here and it'll take photos for you, so you can see even from a distance, which is pretty cool. I've always really liked that. But yeah, so as far as the software experience goes, no real issues. I think Samsung did have some type of green line issue with a few phones. I did not experience that, but it was like they put out a security patch, and I guess it like put a whole green line through the screen. So other than that, the software experience has been pretty good on this phone. Alright, so let's talk about the cameras with the Note 20 Ultra. It still takes phenomenal shots. It's got a 108 megapixel standard lens. So if you turn that mode on, you get really nice detailed shots still when you crop and zoom in to photos and stuff like that. So that's something that I think is really nice with this phone. It has a 12 megapixel periscope telephoto with 5 times optical zoom, and then you also have a 50 times hybrid zoom. So if you're at a sporting event or something like that, you need to zoom in a little bit more, this phone can still get you a pretty decent shot. And the 5 times zoom is still really good on this phone as well. It gives you a nice crispy shot as well too. This phone also has a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera and shoots in 8K 24, a 10 megapixel selfie that shoots in 4K 60. So the images on here are still pretty good in my opinion. I did a comparison with this phone with the S23 Ultra. I think the only thing that I thought didn't age well was the selfie cam. Not that it takes like really bad photos, it's just that if you're like, a person of color, it sort of bleaches the skin way more than I would like. So you would have to do like a post editing and stuff like that to be able to get your skin tone right, because the skin tone is just way off. It just gives you that kind of weird powder look to it. But besides that, dynamic range is really good. Like I said, the 5 times is really good as well too. The ultra wide is pretty consistent with the main lens as well too, so it looks pretty good. It takes great shots. I don't think anybody would complain about the photos on the Note 20 Ultra. Really nice vibrant colors on here as well too. But yeah, that's the only thing is with like the selfie cam. Video and all that stuff still looks pretty good in my opinion. We've got stereo speakers on board. We're gonna max the volume out. No, snap. Hold on. Yeah, the speakers sound really good on the Note 20 Ultra. They're very loud and have a really good amount of bass. I actually like the speakers a little bit more than the S21 Ultra and the S22 Ultra with the infamous speakers, just some of Samsung's worst speakers. This has really good speakers, so even if you cover the bottom, you still get a really nice, loud, full sound on this phone. So absolutely love the speakers. You also have the ultrasonic fingerprint sensor on here as well too, and you can take advantage of the face unlock, which also works really well. Alright, so lastly is battery life on here. The battery life on this phone, it's pretty decent. This phone still gets around like 6 hours of screen on time for me. Has a 4500 milliamp hour battery. The charging on here is a little bit dated. It has 25-watt charging. So you know, it's kind of interesting because I believe the Note 10 Plus had 45 watts, so they downgraded it. I always thought that was strange when it came out. But yeah, so the charging does feel a little bit kind of slow on this phone. But you do have wireless charging on board and reverse wireless charging too. So yeah, battery life is just decent. Nothing too crazy. In my opinion, Samsung really hasn't. You're not going to get really good battery life on these Samsung flagships until you get like an S23 Ultra, because that's like the one thing that I absolutely love the S23 Ultra for, is Samsung made a pretty massive leap in terms of battery life. But with the older, Samsung flagships, I'm talking about even if this phone was brand new, you put a brand new battery in it, it still feels like it's getting the same like 6 hours of screen on time. Alright, so that is pretty much it, guys. Be sure to let me know what you guys think. Do you guys have a Note 20 Ultra? Are you guys thinking about getting rid of it? Are you going to keep it? Be sure to let me know, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.